Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole. On our podcast, we delve into the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
That's right, Nicole. Our podcast is all about exploring those fundamental truths and practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, Christina, we want to make metaphysical concepts easy to understand and accessible, especially for those who don't have a ton of time to do all the research.
Right? We'll do the research as well as share our experiences and perspectives, hoping to empower you, our listener, to find balance and magic in your day-to-day.
Inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root, let's explore the roots of well-being and self-healing together.
This is The Radical with Christina and Nicole, two metaphysical girls in the material world. Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Radical Podcast. This is Christina.
And I'm Nicole.
I hope everybody's doing well today. Nicole and I are so excited to have the topic today of our season 1 wrap up. 1 season complete. Can you believe it?
Our grand finale.
We don't really have a structure for today. I have a list, but I'm going to weave it in with everything that we're going to be talking about today. I've got like some turning points for me, some light bulb moments that I had, some things that I thought were true, which turned out to be false. I'm sure we all had some of those happen. But I have like a loose list of those to go through today. And then, of course, I think Nicole has a much more organized list to talk about.
The first thing I did getting ready for this episode went to our master spreadsheet where we have all of our episodes listed. And I looked at our very first couple of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our early episodes, our second episode, was called Is Astrology Legitimate? And I remember preparing for this and recording this episode so vividly. And now that it's been a full year and we've walked through all the zodiac signs, I have more thoughts on is astrology legitimate?
I like it. We can spend a whole third, fourth, fifth season re-recording all the topics that we recorded in the first season or the first year with new insights. I was working on my notebook, my workbook, and I'm going through the specifically the episodes on the zodiac signs, and I was like, oh, look how cute I was. What I was writing down here last summer, talking about the things that I was talking about and the priorities that I had from the viewpoint that I was looking at things last year when we were doing the zodiac signs. I'm like, look at those little notes I made.
And I think when we recorded this second episode, there was a part of me that wanted to convince astrology doubters, if you will, that astrology was legitimate. I had this agenda in my mind. I have a book by Pam Gregory, who's a wonderful astrologer. I listen to a lot of her videos on YouTube, and she has 2 books. This one is called How to Co-Create Using the Secret Language of the Universe. One of the chapters in this book is dedicated to sort of the history of astrology. I read this chapter in January. I was in Vancouver. I was so blown away. I didn't know a lot of this information.
Mm-hmm.
So, some highlights from this chapter in her book. She writes, some people consider astrology to be a superficial irrelevance, as sun sign astrology neatly divides the world's population into 12 equal sections and expects them to have a similar experience on any given day. That is the antithesis of serious astrology, where each
Mm-hmm.
person's birth chart contains up to 3,000 variables.
I love how she summed up that thought about astrology that most people assume that's what it is about the 12 sun signs and that daily horoscope. That is, she summed that up so beautifully. That's hard to get people to unthink that, to unlearn that, to unassume that, because that is such a wide what's the word? It's the
It's
wide
just,
distribution of what astrology is.
yes, I love that sentence, the antithesis of serious astrology.
Mm-hmm.
Serious astrology is where each person's birth chart contains up to 3,000 variables. So this is not simplistic, it is highly individualized. And Pam goes on to say that astrology was a principal subject taught in the mystery schools almost 3,500 years ago. The mysteries were taught in schools by astrologer, priest, hierophants, who believed that the more you understood the planetary patterns, the more you were able to access divine intelligence. Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Pythagoras studied at these mystery schools. The astrologer, priest, hierophants advised the monarch of the day on state affairs, and even the papacy had its own astrologer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is circa the 1600s. So, a long history where astrology was really respected. It was considered higher knowledge, and it was studied by university students along with mathematics,
Mm-hmm.
philosophy, and theology. It was even taught as part of medical curriculums. Galileo taught it at the University of Padua in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Pam writes, it was unthinkable, even in the Middle Ages in Europe, to become a doctor without a thorough understanding of astrology. So, what happened? Sir Isaac Newton came along. He lived from 1643 to 1726. And he stated that the planets were too far away to have any influence based on gravity. It was stated that astrology was poor thinking and superstition. It was dismissed into the periphery of society and lost all academic respectability because of one guy.
I know, and I'll tell you what, that bit about gravity, that's not true for Jupiter. Jupiter's still doing all kinds of mayhem out there. That's fascinating. But sometimes that's all it takes is one person to gain enough momentum behind them and change a generation of thinkers. And then the next generation, and then the next generation, and the next thing you know, we have a whole new school of thought.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of shame because if you wanted to be considered a serious thinker,
Yeah.
you couldn't believe in astrology. So, for this reason, up through the 1900s, astrology went through a dry period. And Carl Jung was really one of the individuals who revived astrology. He used astrology to help diagnose his patients. And in the 1960s, we saw astrology take a more psychological
Mm-hmm.
twist that really informs how a lot of astrologers use astrology today. It has that psychological angle. So Pam writes, astrology can help us co-create more effectively once we understand that it is a language of interconnectedness. It's this idea of as above, so below, as
Mm-hmm.
within, so without, that hermetic principle. And she says every birth chart is not only a picture of the heavens at the moment of birth, but also a map of the psyche and potential life journey for that individual. It is inner and outer at the same time.
I love that. And I believe that. I believe that. In researching the zodiac signs this past year and digging into the history, digging into the history of the constellations has taken me down a pathway of basic history, like the ancient cultures and what the ancient cultures valued and how they valued it and what they saw in the stars and why they saw that based on whether they were agricultural, whether they were in Egypt it was all about the flooding of the Nile, and all of that had a reflection on how they interpreted where the sun was and where the moon was and what constellation and what they saw when they looked at those stars. And it's been so fascinating to me to see what we have today based on what they saw and what they passed on to us all those thousands of years ago. Because it's the same. What's changed is us as humans and what we value and what we see and what we do with our time. And so the Taurus means something different than it did to people who owned and lived by livestock.
I love that you said studying astrology has taken you down different like pathways of study. So,
Mm-hmm.
history, mythology, archaeology, symbology. And it is wild to me that astrology endured for thousands of years.
Yes.
And it was so respected and well studied and sort of protected
Mm-hmm.
as like sacred information
Mm-hmm.
being, taught in universities and mystery schools. And then this one person shifts. And,
Yeah.
there could have been other things too. I don't mean to put all the blame on Sir Isaac Newton, but this one thought, this one person, this one moment in history shifted the respectability of this practice, but yet it's being revived and it's still enduring
Mm-hmm. It endures. And
because there's like these like universal truths that when you do start digging into history and mythology that just are undeniable.
yeah. Well, it's the human experience. It's human beings being on this planet doing the things that humans do. So there's lessons in it, even though I don't plant crops. There is still a benefit, and it is still good for my human self to follow the flow of the season and to know that at times of the year and times of the day, some things feel better and some things feel worse. As far as activity, sleeping, eating, starting a new project, getting married, like all the things that we do have a cycle and have a season, so also does the the energy of the year, the astrological year. It essentially was a way to tell time. That was how you knew what month it was based on where the sun was and what constellation, where the moon was and what constellation, and what was coming next. It was a calendar. It was the shape of their year, the shape of their years. When we did that bit on calendars, and I just barely scratched the surface on the Mayan calendar, and they had a cycle of 60 years. And then when we were doing the bazaar, and they were talking about the 10, 20, 30, 60, right? Didn't they have like, and then it just kept multiplying so that it could go on into infinity, and the years and the cycles and the flow of energy, that it was a way to tell time and to predict the future. A little bit of that too, right? To know what to expect. But it was more so about being in the present moment and what needed to happen today. What do we need to do today? How do I need to be today? What do I need to do today and not do today and this week and this month during this time of year? But it
Yes.
endures because we're human beings. And as soon as you said that part about, I think what happened is humans, we used to be outside and looking up. And our culture now has us inside looking down, looking at, started with looking at books, then looking at screens and looking at devices. And we're not looking out and up as much anymore. So astrology has changed to match that. And it has. Everything that was applied to the flow of the year 2000 years ago is still true to the flow of the year today. We just have different values. We have different priorities, different
Yeah.
needs. I do want to say one of my light bulb moments when I was going back and reading my notes from last year, and I could tell when I was figuring out a certain piece of astrology, like when I found out chakras were associated with zodiac signs, and then I couldn't really figure out how they were associated. I'm like, where's the start? Where's the end? Why does the energy flow this way or that way? And we did a podcast on, it must have been either Gemini or Cancer, but the summer solstice was when the chakra energy was the highest in the body, in the third eye. And then the energy would go down as the days got shorter. And then the chakra energy was in the root of the spine at the winter solstice, and then would build again as the days got longer. That was a light bulb moment, finally putting that together, because I had pieces of the information, but I didn't have the full picture until I was researching that one and then put it all together. And then I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Do you want to know my favorite thing
Yes.
that I learned this season?
Yes. I wonder if we have the
I
same
know.
favorite thing.
I did peek at your notes, and this is on there. So there's a chance. In researching episode 23, Baza and Beyond,
It is.
the concept of thirds. So the Baza, or the four pillars in Chinese metaphysics, or your birth chart, is responsible for 1/3 of your luck, your free will, another third, and then your environment or your feng shui, or what I have started referring to as the elementals,
Mm-hmm.
another third.
I loved that. That was not a light bulb. That was like the sun rising over a mountain. It was such a bright light, and so much of like what the metaphysical world meant to me made more sense after we talked about that concept of 1/3 is this, 1/3 is this, and 1/3 is this.
Yes.
Yeah.
What you just said, I agree with totally. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been really intrigued and wanting to learn more about the elementals This is really the foundational concepts of feng shui, traditional Chinese medicine, the medical qigong lineage I learned. It brings into the picture yin and yang,
Mm-hmm.
balance and harmony. And I wrote down the word symbiotic because there is this symbiotic relationship between your environment and your body and your health, but also your spirituality and your emotions. Because when you balance and harmonize one, you bring balance and harmony to the other aspects. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been getting acupuncture, for example, and working on this physical health journey. But the payoff has also been balance and harmony spiritually and emotionally. I wrote down that the spleen as an organ in traditional Chinese medicine is associated with the emotion of overthinking.
Mm.
It's also associated with the earth element. So, something that I don't have the answers to these questions, but a couple things I have been trying to not overthink about, but it's been on my mind. I only have one air placement in my natal chart.
Oh,
So, am I sensitive to too much air element? Am I prone to overthinking?
I just
And it's
mentioned that the theory I had was that the reason why I like or I don't like activities was based on the elements in my star chart. And I said we need to do a whole podcast on that. But I think it's true. In my personal experience, that the places on the actual physical planet where I feel the most comfortable are the opposite of what is excess in my star chart.
it's definitely something that I think we'll keep exploring.
Yeah.
My Chiron is the air placement in Gemini. So, because it's Chiron, I wonder, is it about healing the wound around overthinking and
Hmm.
changing how I use my mind and my intellect? Again, I don't know, but these are just the really interesting overlaps and symbiotic relationships between our elements and astrology and our
Yeah.
emotions and our health and our spirituality. It's making me think like this is how medicine should be. This well-rounded and all-encompassing holistic approach.
I agree that it should include, and I don't mean like specific diets like low fat or low carb, but like you need to not eat watery food, or you need to eat more watery food, or you need to not consume hot beverages, or you need to consume more hot beverages. I think all of that, like just, consumption and what we put into the body, and then you should keep yourself cool, or you should keep yourself warm, or you should avoid soaking in baths for a long time, or like all of that is medicine. All of that does have an effect on our constitution and our overall well-being. We know it to be true. We feel more comfortable and better in certain climates, and we tend to actively avoid other environments. Like I avoid overly air conditioned places in the summertime. Like it is painful for my body to walk into a grocery store that is air conditioned to like 60 something in July.
Mm-hmm.
And then to walk out into, like, that cannot be good for us as human beings to go through to go through those sort of extreme, changes. But anyway, we feel these things in our bodies. We just often aren't paying that close attention to them, right?
Yeah.
But it's all medicine. It's all medicine, because it's all will make us better or make us, it'll make us feel more at ease or make us feel less at ease, right?
Oh my gosh, that is my very next note. I am not
What?
even kidding. I am not even kidding. Okay. So, what I wrote down, and I know you didn't read it off my notes, that is
I
just,
didn't read that. I looked at your notes, but I didn't read, and I don't even have your notes up on my
yeah.
screen. I'm only looking at my notes.
Okay, that is like so wild. So, I wrote down, to me, astrology is more about the energy of potential and can help us understand our luck, quote unquote, aka what would be in balance. In other words, more easeful, literally what Christina just said, and what would be out of balance. In other words, less easeful or of disease.
Yep, that's it.
And I have just a tiny bit more to say on that. So, Pam in her book puts it this way: since earliest times, astrology was seen as a way of coming into harmony with the cosmos and therefore returning a patient to good health. And Christina brought up predictions a little bit earlier and how astrology can sometimes be used to make predictions. And what I wrote down here was predictions to me is one of the lesser important uses because a prediction is only based on the 1/3 that is
Mm-hmm.
my birth chart or my 4 pillars.
Right.
Astrology becomes empowerment when I remember my chart and my pillars show me my blueprint, and it makes up just 1/3. Free will and working with my elementals is the where the majority of like my power lies. That
Mm-hmm.
allows me to harmonize and find flow or not, but the choice is mine.
Yeah. We did the podcast on experiences, and you've you're if you're not going out and having experiences, you're not going to meet that person or find that job. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have so much in control of ourselves. The stars, what we're born with. Experience, life experiences is what you do and how you do it. What you
Mm-hmm.
do and how you do it. And then I have it as luck. Energy flow, luck, and that's how you be. How you just like how the energies flow around you, which was what you would say the elementals, which is exactly the same thing. That means more is in our control than isn't. Right? That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that we have more control over our future than not.
Yeah, and I wrote down a little example. So Uranus moved into Gemini 2 days ago. We're recording this on July the 9th, and Uranus moved into Gemini on July 7th. It's also trining Pluto and Aquarius. So this is an air placement, trining an air placement. So for me, since I tend to not do well with the air element, Christina said there's intuitively, there's places we go, like physically on this earth, where we feel good and places where we don't feel good. I don't love crowded, busy, loud places, like going to a music festival or a concert or a shopping mall on the weekend. Is kind of like the um
Yeah.
physical representation of like how air energy makes me feel. But that constitutes 1/3 of the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
The choices I make is 1/3, and my elementals is the other third. So I can make choices to take baths, water element, nature walks, earth element, candle gazing, fire element. I can do things. So like the astrological knowledge tells me sort of what I need to spend the other 2/3 doing. to bring balance and harmony and ease rather than dis-ease. And how Christina said it, all these things that we do or not do is medicinal.
It is.
Changing your diet so you eat more warming foods is medicine. Taking a bath, if that makes sense for you and your constitution, is medicine.
Going for a walk outside, not inside, outside. Taking a nap. I mean, all the things that we just associate with rest or relaxation or luxury, or we don't have enough time for whatever. Reading a book could be medicine. Scheduling time to do nothing could be medicine. Another thing, when I was looking back at my notes and I saw myself getting caught in, was the cardinal, mutable, and fixed signs based on where they were in the circular chart of the zodiac year. Do you remember when I was like, and that's a cardinal sign? What does that mean, cardinal? And then we were doing a podcast. I think it was putting the birth chart together when I realized that the cardinal signs were at the cardinal points, as if your birth chart was like a map at the east, west, north, and south, and that meant cardinal. That the first house, the fourth house, the sixth house, and the 10th house. And I was like, oh, cardinal. Because then I had a visual representation of what that meant. And the fixed signs being in the middle, being the majority of the season, and the mutable signs being at the end, being ushering in the next season or the next change. I remember when I was putting all that together, it was a light bulb moment. But then the moment on top of that moment was when I found out that they have tarot cards associated with them. That, let me turn my page here, that for Pisces, as a mutable sign, was the Knights, and it's a water sign, so it's the Knight of Cups. That's how another layer comes into our zodiac. So cardinal are queens, fixed are kings, mutable are knights, and then the pages are the actual seasons themselves, is how those court cards are added into a layer. Cardinal Capricorn Earth is the Queen of Pentacles. This has to do with the zodiac sign, but it is almost more to do with the season of the year that it comes up in, because it's the beginning of the season. Like the first house, Aries, is spring, Cancer is summer, Libra is fall, and then Capricorn is winter. So yes, it has to do with our development as human beings, but it also echoes the hero's journey of the year. So it is the seasons of our lives, but also the seasons of the physical year echoed in the zodiac year. It's amazing.
It really is. It is. I mean, this might not even be the right question, but it's like, who figured this out? Who did this?
I know.
It's so elaborate and sophisticated and elegant, and it just, there's so much depth, and it's amazing.
Everything is another layer of understanding, and you can see how things go together, but things always don't match. Another light bulb moment for me was Taurus. Taurus as a male bull never fit in my mind that time of year until we researched that podcast, and I read the story about the oryx and the cave paintings, and female oryx have horns, and it was a symbol of the crescent moon, and it was very much a yin symbol, a mothering symbol, because of the animal husbandry time. That was when the the young were being born and the mothers were nursing the youngs in the oryx and in the cows and I was like, oh my gosh, nobody told me it was a male bull. I mean, I'm sure I read it something, but that wasn't ever like said. It must be a young male bull figure. It was like when I researched it, I realized that a lot of this is up for interpretation. And however you see it and however it fits your life, there's a story that'll fit it. And then it becomes what it means to you based on your life, your experience, where you are in the world, how old you are, what you grew up with. And then it made sense and it totally clicked. And then I wanted to dissect all the other 12 signs, and I did. And then I researched all of them, the twins, the water bear. I mean, I looked into all of them and it was amazing because I love mythology. And so digging well past the Greeks and the Romans was fantastic for me. Fantastic. I have to get that Joseph Campbell book, all of his books on mythology, because he is quoted heavily, and pieces of his work was put in a lot of the articles I read. But that was such a light bulb moment, was Taurus. That was a huge light bulb moment for me, along with the tarot cards moving through the seasons of the zodiac, which is the wheel of the year. It is the zodiac year is the wheel of the year. It is specifically based on the solstices and the equinoxes. It is
So cool.
But that was like a 2-for-1. The Taurus and the cardinal fixed and mutable. Oh, it's a 3-for-1, and the zodiac and the tarot cards that were associated with them. Oh, I remember the feeling, and I'm very excited right now about talking about that when I realized that. I love it.
So this is a reflection that came to me. I was thinking back again to our second episode, is Astrology Legitimate? And I also remember very vividly a YouTube video I watched, and somebody said astrology is self-centered. And I was like, oh, how dare you? I took it very personally for some reason, and clearly I haven't let it go. So I was thinking, okay, maybe astrology is self-centered. But then again, isn't the entire self-help genre? What I have come to notice and understand about spiritual practice is that the end result, quote unquote, I realize there's not really like an end or like a goal, but for lack of a better term, that's kind of what I'm driving at. Like the purpose, what we're trying to achieve typically is living in a meditative or flow state, becoming a more loving and grateful being, and being more compassionate and interested in helping other people or serving other people. And we saw this in the 7 spiritual laws of success. The 7th law of success was the law of Dharma, or purpose in life. And in that book, it was stated that everyone has a purpose in life, a unique gift or special talent to give others, and to ask yourself, how can I serve humanity? So while it seems the spiritual journey culminates in serving humanity, it also seems to me that the spiritual journey starts off as self-centered. And in a way, this makes sense to me because we can only control ourselves. And ultimately, our spiritual journey does serve others, even if only indirectly. And we saw this with the work of Dr. David Hawkins, who came up with the map or the levels of consciousness. And in his work, the levels of 500 to 700 plus is living in a state of spiritual reality, which is characterized by expansiveness, transcending the ego, and intellectualization, coming into more of a power instead of force, and also love, compassion, forgiveness, and nurturing. Dr. Hawkins teaches us and has demonstrated through his research that at these states of beings, at these levels of consciousness, we begin to counterbalance lower vibrational energies of thousands of other people. So there you go, serving others even indirectly by just healing and increasing your vibration. You have this impact on thousands and thousands of others. And so my thought is, if astrology is your framework for self-study, harmonizing your elementals and aligning with your purpose or your dharma or your talent to give to others, then it is beneficially self-centered.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Me digging into the 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 the, the history and the cave paintings of the symbol of Taurus is so that I have a better understanding of how that relates to me. It's not purely academic. I want to have a better understanding of the world I live in so that I can have a better time living in it.
And I think another thing that kind of happens in doing this kind of research and sharing it on a podcast, for example, is becoming aware of our interconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, for example, this year, there's been like scary things that have happened in the world, and how I choose to engage or not engage, how I choose to care for myself through those times. I know that's having a ripple effect and impacting others in a positive way, even if I can't see it, because I believe we're interconnected. I can change the vibration and thereby maybe the outcome of what's happening by raising my state. It's like these sort of lessons that we hear across different spiritual texts or different spiritual practices. And I really do believe that. And I think over the course of this past year, by tuning into what's right for me and putting up boundaries to not engage in things that are not so good for me, really think that has a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
And if astrology is one of my tools for understanding my elements, for overall healing and well-being, to look at astrology as my blueprint, how can I serve humanity with what I was born with, then maybe it is self-centered, and maybe that's not a bad thing, because we can only control ourselves. And if every single person on this earth did that, realized I can only control myself and I want to be the best person I can become with this spiritual goal in mind of dharma, we would like instantly have peace on earth.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. I was going to say that's another point, and I mentioned it very, very briefly, the hero's journey. And the hero's journey echoes through everything. We're all on our own hero's journey, and we are the star of the show. That is very self-centered. To be aware of where you are, to be aware that you need to make a change, to be aware that an opportunity is given to you, to be aware that, oh, here's a mentor who's going to help me learn and grow, and then be aware that you have to say goodbye to this old life. It is. It's all about it's all about you. It's all about you and your growth. And then the big part of the hero's journey is then what you do with what you've learned when you go back. And that's where you are now. You're like, by living my truth, that is the gift that you've been given, and that is what you are sharing. And just by living in that way, you are setting an example that it can be done. because you're doing it. And people think it's impossible, but it's not. The hero's journey is us. We are the hero. We are on the journey. And it's the hero's journey of your day, of your month, of this season, of this year, of your life, of your job, of raising your children, of the next 10 minutes. Like, the hero's journey is everywhere around us. That was another big happy realization, was how it starts with us being born, which is essentially the moment we realize the journey needs to begin. So it's not at your birth, it's not on your first day of work, it's not on your first day of school. It's on that first moment you realize something is happening, something is changing, or an opportunity is growing or being given to you. That could be listening to this podcast, listeners. This could be day one of your hero's journey, because the seed is planted. So while we're on this receptive place, are you ready for the message from the universe?
I am. I'm
We
so
are
ready.
we're receptive and contemplative right now with our minds open and spinning. I am using the Wild Unknown archetype oracle deck. I have 3 cards, listeners. I was going to pick 2, but 2 were stuck together so tightly that I didn't know that they were 2 cards until I kind of put them together. And then I was like, oh, okay. You will be heard today as well. Okay, card A. Wait, do I use letters or numbers? Card A, B, or C? Card 1, 2. I use letters. Card A, B, or C? Card A. The kiss, the touch, the chemistry, the sex. Before a first kiss, the air is electrified. Each breath is alive with possibility and magic. What will their lips be like? Their tongue? Do they want me in return? The archetypal energy of the kiss is a heightened sensation of merging with other, of letting in what was moments ago separate, to become one. It is risky but beautiful business. These moments forever change us as we move past the solitary life towards union and acceptance. This card suggests true intimacy is around the corner, which requires bravery and surrender. When the kiss takes a non human form, it may be experienced as touching the sacred, hearing a whisper, or being graced by a divine being. You will recognize the presence of the kiss by cold chills and an awakening of the heart. When light, the kiss energy is sensual expressiveness, merging, and inviting. When dark, this energy is neediness, pressure, dominance, and disrespect. Card B, the prayer, the worship, the reverence, the prayer. What is prayer? When are we in a state of prayer and when are we not? To whom or what do we pray? Archetypally, the practice of prayer has been with us since the dawn of time as a remedy for omnipresent, self-centered thinking that spins us towards illusion. Prayer leads us beyond our ego as we move from our little story to the big one. Some say we are in a state of prayer anytime we are not the center of our own thoughts. Others say prayer is a natural result of gratitude. Perhaps it is a simple surrender or service, whatever prayer is for you. This card reminds us of its importance. Get quiet, low, humble, and soft. Bow and touch the ground as your heart lifts to the sky. Though it may be uncomfortable, it is time. Nothing else will do. The prayer. When light, this energy is offering to be of service and asking for guidance. When dark, this energy is expecting results and self-aggrandizement.
Very appropriate card.
Card C, the forest, the woods, the thicket, the jungle. Consider for a moment your earliest memory of the forest. It's likely it included all the mythic dynamics of this archetypal space: a little fear, a little enchantment, perhaps losing your way, perhaps discovering a secret mystical treasure. Such is the magic of the forest. It requires first that you enter it, and then that you get lost within it. You may think there is a path to lead you straight through, but soon enough you'll be on what is known as the pathless path. There are tricksters here, dense foliage and entanglement, but equally present are the glimmers of fairy light and friends among the trees. You're on an adventure now, and there's no turning back. So embrace the dim light and the moving shadows, whether literal or imaginal. Brave the forest and get lost getting found. When light, magic abounds, childlike wonder and adventure. When dark, concealment, density, and savagery. Those are the archetypal cards today.
Those were wonderful.
I will share a picture of those. These cards are beautiful. So that is a season 1 wrap up, listeners. Message from the universe. Some organized and disorganized thoughts from us. And it was so much fun doing this first season. I cannot wait for more light bulbs, for more rabbit holes, for more tangents and deep dives and all the things that we went through in season 1.
I couldn't agree more. And I wrote down, where do we go from here? Next week, we will be back with our first episode of season 2, which is all about tarot. And this episode just made me even more excited to start season 2 because, on one hand, the astrology conversations are not over. We get to look at astrology in new ways, in different ways, incorporate astrology into tarot, and just go deeper with things Christina mentioned, like myth, history, symbolism, numerology, even more with the elementals, my new obsession. So we'll be back next week. Thank you, listeners. We love you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Radical. The Radical is written and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Listener questions can be emailed to us at theradicalpodnc@gmail.com.
Our Instagram is The Radical Pod.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music.